Jörg. I'm from Interactive, from Cologne, Germany. And welcome to my talk about the state of Plone performance through the eyes of real-world users. When I started researching for this talk and looking into the subject, I started by looking at the Plone sites, and I wanted to know how we address performance, or if we address performance or speed at all on our websites, on plone.com, plone.org, for example. And I actually didn't find anything. If you search for performance or for speed, there's nothing on both websites. And I remembered that at the times of Plone 4, that was different. We even had the slogan, speed, power, beauty. So we had this, we said speed is one part of Plone. So I wonder if we just forgot to talk about it now, or if, we don't think that we have a performance system anymore, or what the reason is why we don't talk about performance anymore on the websites, for example. Of course, I did find something on the developer documentation. There's a whole section about performance and tuning, but that's mostly about caching, about optimizing ZIO and threads and RAM cache and a lot of other magic things. But I think you will see during this talk that this is not the part of performance that I want to address with my talk. And I think we need to address more things than I mentioned here. So before we really get into the data, into the real facts about Plone performance, I would like to ask the question why actually performance matters, and what the difference is if a website, for example, loads in 3 seconds or it loads in 10 seconds. So I think one of the major points is that web performance matters because it affects our users' experience. For those of you who already came Tuesday to my talk on privacy, you know this slide. It was the same one. I said that privacy is one important part of user experience. And of course, speed, a website's performance is another very, very important part of UX, of user experience. So this talk will be mostly about user experience. And if you ask your users what they care about most, what they really need from a website, what user experience is about, they will tell you that speed matters the most. And that's pretty easy to understand, because if the website doesn't load, if you don't see your service and your content, whatever, then yeah, it doesn't really make sense. Everything else that comes after that is just second best. So of course they want to find what they're looking for. Of course they want to the website to fit in their screen and so on. But above all, the speed of the website matters most. So some more reasons why performance matters. First thing, it's a Google ranking factor. And second thing, if you do performance optimization, you can really see that it matters, because then you will see measurable results in your business metrics and in user experience. And both things I want to show you a bit more in detail now. The ranking factor is something pretty recent. We always thought that speed is considered somehow in Google's ranking, but starting this year in summer, it's official. Google announced it, that page speed is a ranking factor in mobile searches. And when Google addressed this change, or this new ranking factor, they gave pretty clear statement to developers. And they said, we encourage developers to think broadly about how performance affects a user's experience of their page, and to consider a variety of user experience metrics. So that's a pretty clear task for all of us, to do something about speed and they tell you it matters. So I just said that if you do performance optimization, you can see a clear impact on your user's experience and on your business metrics. And there's actually a website, it's called wpostats.com, where case studies are collected of exactly those things, like companies who achieved a performance improvement and translated that to an improvement in their business metrics. So, for example, you have Financial Times, they have 30% more engagement, meaning more visits and more content being consumed and so on. So it's e-commerce sites, it's content sites, it's all kind of websites that post their achievements there, and you can really see how it matters if your website is faster than your competitor's website. There's also a nice tool where you can estimate what impact, what financial impact even, your performance improvements can have on your website. So that's pretty cool. You give them you tell them how many seconds it takes to load your website right now. You tell them how many visitors you have per month, and you tell them what your conversion is, and then you can try to change the slider there, and you can say, okay, if I improve my web performance by 1 second, by 2 seconds, by 3 seconds, what does it bring me at the end in dollars? And of course, it's just an estimation. It's maybe more like a little game, but it translates the idea of performance into business metrics, and that's what I think what's really important to see, this connection between the two things. So this is, they put it positively, so if you do something to improve your performance, you have better results. You can also put it negatively. If your website, if your page load time goes from 1 to 3 seconds, the probability of bounce increases by 32%, and so on. So negatively speaking, the slower your website is, the more bounces you have. Also a very nice tool here, you can compare your website to your competitors' websites, and you compare the mobile speed, for example. This is just a random list of, in this case, university sites, the biggest university websites in Germany, but it could be anything else that you want to compare, and you say, okay, which country and what's your speed? In this case, it's 4G, and then you see where your website is and how your competitors rank, and you can see how you do. Then, to see it on the global level, there's this speed index. It's a benchmark by industry and by country. And this research includes speed, page weight, and requests. And it's pretty nice because you see for every industry what the average load time is for the travel sector, for example, for real estate, for technology in the different countries. And the overall message here is that all of them can improve their performance. They are too slow. We will see that in the statistics that follow. Because there are many more statistics and numbers I could show you, but I just want to give you the summary of what research shows. So for one thing, mobile pages are almost as heavy as desktop pages nowadays, and that's bad. That's a bad message because with mobile, of course, you don't have the same speed. You are in a different situation, and as a website owner, you should really deliver a different experience to mobile users than you do for desktop users. And page weight is one important thing we should work on, but for now, there's almost no difference in page weight between the two, between mobile and desktop. Then more than half of overall web traffic comes from mobile. But mobile conversion rates are lower than desktop. So in short, you could also say speed equals revenue. That's a good reason to work on your performance. So the average time it takes to fully load a mobile landing page on 4G is about 15 seconds right now. So the statistics we saw about the sectors, about the different countries, they showed also 6, 7, 8 seconds. But the overall average is 15 seconds. And now, this is a very important one. 53% of mobile visits leave a page that takes longer than 3 seconds to load. So half of your visitors are gone when you are at 6 seconds or when you are even at 15 seconds to load a page. And then we just talked about really good speed, good mobile speed. We talked about 4G. But if you look at the whole thing in global terms, you see that more than 60% of all mobile connections are still 2G. So if you have any worldwide audience, then you should also think about that, and then you need to do a lot more than you see in the statistics right now. So that's pretty cool. I could tell you a low performance joke, but it symbolizes a bit what you should look at. Like the time to load a whole page is the important factor, because if a person doesn't see the whole image and the whole site, you cannot interact. It's not enough that you just have the navigation and you have the logo and you have some content. It's not enough. People need the whole page to do something, to understand, to really appreciate what your website is about, and to have the content ready there. Okay, so let's have a look at how we could actually measure performance, what we can do, and how we get Plone into the picture there. There are two different ways to measure. For one thing, we could analyze how a website is built. So is it built on Plone? How many bytes does it load? Does it use a CDN? Are the images optimized? That would be one area of research we could do. And the other area of research is more, what is the user experience? So does the user come from a desktop situation or from mobile? So what's the device? Is it Wi-Fi connection or is it mobile speed? Is the page load fast or slow? Or also, what is the visitor's journey? What journey does the visitor take on your website? For example, he arrives at the homepage, then he goes to a product page, and then he goes to a shopping cart or whatever. And then on the right side, you see a couple of tools we could use to measure performance. By far, that's not everything we could use, but it's just some things we used now for this experiment, for this analysis we did for Plone. So on the one hand, you have public tools, notably the HTTP archive. There you see how websites are built. And then the Chrome UX report. That's more about the user experience questions I just mentioned. And then you have the personal tools. Those you probably all know. You have your browser developer tools, where you can see the network connections, for example. You have webpagetest.org, where you see how a website is built. And of course, you have your personal analytics, Piwik or Google Analytics or whatever. So this is the tool set we use to analyze how performant Plone as a system, as an ecosystem is. Now, how does Plone perform in the HTTP archive? We start with that. And first thing is to look at how many Plone sites are there. And one website where you can see that is buildwith.com. You can see for every system how many domains are detected, how many sites are built with Plone, how many redirects there are for Plone sites, and so on. So there you get a first idea how many sites there are. And buildwith.com detected a total of 29,000 something Plone websites. A lot of them are redirects, so it scales down a lot. And then you see how that compares to overall statistics. Now, in the HTTP archive, they basically track how the web is built. So that's already what the headline says there. And that's not only for page speed, but for many other subjects. They try to measure the whole web and put it into statistics. The way they do it is that they crawl 1,300,000 websites twice a month. And they use the web page test crawlers to do that. They collect data, and then for one thing, they are giving raw data for analysis in the Google Cloud. That's what we used. And also, they put statistics right on this website. They do that with what they call lenses for the most commonly used systems. For example, there's a lens for WordPress, there's a lens for Magento, and so on. So you can see statistics for WordPress right on this website, but you can't see it for Plone because Plone is not big enough for them to create a lens. And so we asked Google if they wouldn't do that, if they wouldn't create a lens for Plone so we could see it right there, but they said no. That's, as I said, Plone is too small, but they gave us 10 terabytes of data analysis in the Google Cloud so we could do the analysis ourselves, and that's the result I can show you now. So, Plone in the HTTP archive. The total page weight of a Plone site is 2,214 kilobytes, and the good news, that's a lot less than the overall number. The overall number is 3,383 if you take all the websites in the HTTP archive. So that's already pretty cool. An average mobile site, average mobile Plone site is 1,997 kilobyte, and that's also considerably less than the average in the HTTP archive. Same thing for image weight, another important factor. On the Plone side, images are slightly less heavy than in overall, but still all those numbers are not really good. Like we will see that later, how that transforms into load time. So we are a bit better than the average, but yeah, there's still room for improvement for every single website. We did this analysis for a lot of other metrics for total requests, for HTML bytes, for CSS bytes, and so on. Doesn't make sense to go through all the numbers. The message is always, yeah, Plone is a little bit better than the overall here. But the really interesting thing comes if you compare it to other open source TMS. And we want to do that from the user perspective with the Chrome UX report I mentioned before. Chrome UX report is a collection of real user performance data of millions of websites. And you can also see the results on the HTTP archive website, as I mentioned before, with the lenses. And we created our own statistics now for Plone. The way it works is that Chrome collects usage statistics from users who opt in, of course. Then this data is sanitized and anonymized, and it's published for analysis in the Google Cloud, as I said. The metrics they have in the Chrome UX report are some measures how your page loads. So when first paint is given, when first contentful paint is reached, then when your DOM content is loaded, and then the unload when the whole page is loaded. First input delay is a new metrics they included, and that's the time from initial user input to page response, and that should be normally pretty instantaneous. It should be less than 100 milliseconds. So that's the result of our analysis. We compared Plone to WordPress, Drupal, Joomla, Typo3, and then the global value. The result is for first paint on this picture, so that would be what you see on the right-hand side in the upper corner. That's the first paint. The colors, green, yellow, and red, are the measures from Google's page speed insights, how they consider a page to be fast or slow. And you see that Plone doesn't perform too badly there. 41% of all Plone websites are in the fast section. And we will have another couple of slides with similar numbers. It's basically always the same message. Plone is among the top. For example, WordPress is always in the last place, and Typo3 is a bit ahead of Plone, but we are not too bad there if you compare to other systems. So first content full paint, same idea, same picture. First place, most Typo3 pages, or 46% of Typo3 pages, are in the fast section, and 40.5% of Plone websites in the fast section. This is the same message basically, but just it's about all the open source content management systems that are available, or not only the open source, but all the CMS, and it's ordered by the number of installations of those CMS. And there you see that with Plone, we are pretty much in the middle there for distribution, but our numbers are quite okay there. So then, same idea for DOM content loaded. So everything on your page is loaded except, I mean, your HTML is loaded, but your pictures are not loaded. We are with 42.9%, pretty good. For example, compared to WordPress, they only have 80% of their websites in the fast section and 33.8% in the slow section. Same thing with average unload. So there your page is completely loaded, and there we have 25.9% of Plone websites in the fast section, and 33% are slow, so definitely room for improvement. That's the first input delay when your website reacts to your user input, and all these systems are pretty good there. So in summary, statistically, Plone performs not too badly in the Chrome UX report, but of course that answers the questions where your individual website is. You are somewhere there. You're either in the green area, in the orange area, or in the red area. And of course, you want to know where you are. But we saw the system itself, the ecosystem, is placed not too badly in the range of other CMS. So now, if you want to know where your website is, you have to use the personal tools I introduced earlier, and you could use the webpagetest.org website, for example, to analyze your website. You could use Google Analytics, you could use Pivik, and all those tools you know to see how the performance of your website is. So we did it with webpagetest.org. This is an example for plone.com, and there's some interesting information in those results. You have grades from A to F. F is fail, of course. And you see that we have a lot of A's, but the first byte time is a fail for Plone.com. But we will see other examples later for other websites, and actually, overall, that's not too bad. Then the interesting thing is in this line with the numbers there, you see that Plone.com needs 3.77 seconds to load, and that's on 4G. You see there from which location the page is loaded, and what the browser is, what the system is, and what the speed is, and this is 4G. So we learned that more than half of your mobile users leave a website when it loads longer than, when it takes longer than 3 seconds to load. And so we are almost there, but we are a little bit above this threshold with Plone.com. Now, then we looked at an empty Plone site. We took the German demo site for Plone. There's basically no content. It's just the normal Plone installation with the Barcelona theming, and no special content on it. And you see that there are also 2 fails already in the grading, and you have a load time, fully loaded time of 6.99 seconds, or almost 7 seconds to load an empty Plone website. And you see that there are 1,376 kilobytes to load without any additional real content from the user. So I think that's not a perfect basis to start to build a website or to optimize a website if you already have 7 seconds there with an empty Plone. Then, of course, you could use your developer tools, or this is from webpagetest.org. There's also the network tool where you can see where your problems are, which resources load, and in which order they load. So you probably all know this one. I don't have to go into details like this. But we thought, okay, we looked at 2 example websites now. We looked at Plone.com and the empty Plone website, but it would be interesting to take a broader look on Plone websites. So we assembled 35 websites that were given as references as Plone 5 websites, for example, on Plone.com. So showcases for Plone. We took some of our own websites, we put them in. We looked at Twitter, what Plone people said, what they just launched, and what websites on Plone 5, for example, they just published, and we took that into our little study and ran all those 35 websites through webpagetest.org to see the results. And then we got something like this. On the left side, normally we would see the websites, but that doesn't matter. It's not really important which website it is. But if you just see the gradings and the load times, you see that in some areas we don't really care, apparently, about performance, and we apparently don't really have the user in mind when we build a website. For example, if I see there that I have a page weight of 31 megabyte on a modern website that is showcased and something special, I wonder how that can happen. And then I have a load time of 55 seconds for such a page. Then I see that people who build such a website do not care about the user who has to use the website. Same message for a lot of other websites. There are examples where the page weight is really good, like if you have 0.6 megabyte there and you have a load time of 2.2 seconds or whatever, that's perfect, that's very good. But you have a lot of examples where you have 8, 9, 10 megabyte of data on a homepage, on a starting page of a website, and it takes basically forever to load that. And actually, this is not even a mobile situation. We didn't test it on 4G, we tested it on cable. So if you on cable already, you have 17 or 18 seconds, and you translate that now to a mobile situation, you know that most of your users will leave these websites before they even see content, before they are able to interact with those websites. So, what can we do better? How can we improve those things? And I just collected some ideas. I think you will have a lot more ideas what we could do, but those are just some that came to mind. First thing is that we have an awareness for performance as an important UX issue. And if you just remember the statistics we just saw of those 35 websites, I think it's pretty clear that most of us don't have this awareness. We build websites, they should probably look nice, we take care of the design and everything, but we do not consider, apparently we do not consider speed. I could not explain, I don't have another explanation why we build websites that have 10 megabytes of data to load and take 18 seconds to load, for example. So, my second suggestion would be that we develop for mobile connections and that we develop mobile first, that we really, from the start, have a mobile user in mind when we create a website, and that page rate is something very important we look at from the very beginning. Of course, we cannot have full control of our editors who add pictures, who add the content later, but then either we have to educate them or we have to give them tools so that pictures are maybe reduced automatically, which Plone does, but apparently it's not used all the time. Or we have to find other ways really to prevent that those pages can really be published with a page load of 30 megabyte, for example. Then what about giving performance as an acceptance criteria, for example, in your user stories, so that developers have to look at performance from the very start, and I mean performance from the user's perspective, not how fast JavaScript is or whatever, but really what is the load time of the page, and then look for the technical reasons and see what should be done from the very beginning. Then I think it will be important that somehow our systems can distinguish between mobile and desktop, so that we can deliver different experience, different pages. If we just have a responsive page where we just have one page, one size fits all, it won't work, because then we have those heavy pages that are maybe nice on the desktop with video and everything, but they are not suitable for most mobile connections, as we saw. Then, yeah, image optimization, document best practices, use the documented profiling monitoring tools in the Plone developer documentation. Those are all things, little things that are pretty clear, but that we apparently do not really do on a regular basis, as the statistics show. And yeah, educate about image handling, something I just said, that would be something that you do with your editors, for example, so that they also know that images are the most common source of a performance problem. Images and JavaScript, those parts. Images is something the editor can handle. JavaScript, of course, is something you have to handle. And then one last idea. What about having an add-on, for example, that makes transparent how your website performs, so that the editor sees, oh, I just uploaded 10 pictures, 10 images on my website, and now I have a page weight of 5 megabyte, for example, and then I should be given a clear sign. That's way too much, I have to do something about it. Okay, that's almost it. One more last thing. I think probably some of you think, okay, what he told us now, it's pretty old school, server-side rendering and all this. It's clear that pages are slow, but with our new approach, with the headless approach, everything will be different and pages will be fast anyway, so who cares? And actually, to tell you the truth, it's not the case. We also looked at a Plone React website and analyzed that, for example, in the webpage.org, webpage test.org thing, and it shows the same or even worse results than all those other normal Plone 5 pages. There are a lot of fails on the grading. There are 5,700 kilobytes to load on that page, and it takes a full 8.8 seconds to load that page. That means if you do not do your homework with all those things, it doesn't matter if your page is made with React or with whatever it is. For the end user, it's the same result. He will wait forever for the page to load. And he needs the whole page to load. He doesn't need just a few things and see that the web page is already coming or whatever. So we did that also with Gatsby, for example. On the Gatsby website, they have a lot of references. And yeah, there are some that are pretty fast, that are pretty good. But overall, you have there the same results. You have pages that are really, really heavy, that have to load several megabytes of data and images and so on, and that take forever to load. So the headless approach is most probably helps you in some ways, but it's not the solution. If you look from the user perspective, you have to do a lot of other things so that your website is faster. So that's about it. Thank you very much for listening, and if you have questions, feel free. Thank you.
Hi, thanks for the talk. It's very informative, and I'm actually quite surprised that the promise of having JavaScript front ends has not been fulfilled, and I'm wondering if that is due to people not resizing their images, the number of requests, or other factors.
Thank you. All of that. So the promise of JavaScript is not that your website is fast because images are handled in a better way. So I think the approach keeps its promise, but you have to do other things. And yeah, you have on this website, you have 47 requests. So I don't know if that's necessary. And you have more than 5.7 megabyte to load. So the whole thing starts with the designer. The designer creates a web page, and the designer probably doesn't have in mind the user. He has in mind to have a nice website, and if you remember the statistics in the very beginning, to have a good look and feel is important for user experience, but the most important thing is speed for users. They care about speed. So the designer should already think, how many pictures and how many videos or whatever do I really need on this website? And then, of course, you need some, sure, but then you need to go into the technical things, and you need to reduce the image size and so on, and you have to think mobile first and develop for the mobile situation.
Another question. At the moment, just one remark. At the moment, we are focusing primarily on the performance for actually users, website users. But we shouldn't forget that there are also the internal users, like the editors, and there are lots of, I wouldn't say lots, but there are many open issues, like, for example, when you're running modifications like moving content from A to B, in particular when there are lots of subtrees or sub-items, which can take very long. Often you run into timeouts. You have no feedback, for example, how long the action will take. So we shouldn't forget at this part, and we know about the problems because they are basically built into the SOAP core, like copy and moving objects around. So basically build very deep insight. So perhaps we should also focus or keep that in mind.
Yeah, thank you. That's a very good point. I really just looked at the content management side from a user perspective. So what's the output? How does the website look? And how fast does it load? But the backend side, the editor side is very important too. Yeah, thank you.